Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ben. Today I'm coming at you with another video. This time I'm going to be talking about my top 5 UFC heavyweights of all time. And so let's just get into this. Who I think are the top 5 best. Sometimes it can get murky, though, and just keep that in mind because someone might be one person, then they get beat by another person, and then the original person gets beats the third person. It can go around in a circle. So just bear with me and I'll try to explain the best why. Number 5, I got Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall isn't higher up on this list because he hasn't had as many fights and particularly tough fights against very established people. He's beat some significant people like Curtis Blades, Sergey Pavlovich, and Alexander Volkov, right? He's beat some notable names who are perennials or tough guys who win for the most part, right? And so he's beat them, and he lost to Blades once, but knee injury, I think, or knee injury of some sort. But then he went on and he beat him. And then now he's the interim champ. And in my mind, he's the champ because John Jones decided to go fight somebody else instead of fighting the interim champ, which should have made him strip, but that... All right, that's a whole thing. Anyways, he's beat some very good people, and I think people don't give him enough credit for that. But also, he's not quite there yet. He needs some more fights, in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. So number 4, I got Junior Dos Santos. And he's my number 4 because he went on a significant tear towards the beginning of his UFC career. He beat people like Fabricio Verdum, people like Mirko Cro Cop, people like Roy Nelson, and Stefan Struve. And although the last two may not be as accomplished as the other two, but it was very significant. And then he beats Cain Velasquez, right? And that's such a huge win. Cain Velasquez ends up avenging him, but still, he had a lot of really good wins, and he was a great fighter, and that's why he's on this list. Number 3, Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez is on this list. I really was appreciative of his win against Brock Lesnar. I thought it was fabulous, and it was a very dominant performance. But he's also beat other people like Chet Congo, and he's beat Junior Dos Santos. That was a big one because he's beat Junior Dos Santos twice. And that's such a big win. And then Antonio Silva. And that's another big win, Antonio Silva. And so he was very dominant champion, and he did very well. Junior Dos Santos did beat him once, but then he rebounded, and Cain Velasquez took it to him twice. And that's why he's on my list. So number 2, I got Francis Ngannou. He didn't fight a lot as the heavyweight champ, but I still think he's on this list because he had a very good career at heavyweight. And I think now it's kind of been overlooked because he left, but I think he is an incredibly important piece of the heavyweight division. He's beaten people like Curtis Blades, Cyril Gane, Alistair Overeem, and he's also beaten Stipe. He beat Stipe to get the championship, right? And, you know, it was a very interesting comeback because he fights Stipe the first time, he loses, right? And then he goes on to fight Derek Lewis, and he fights one of the most passive fights like ever. Like Derek Lewis was having to be the aggressor, and that's just not a good thing because Derek Lewis isn't. He's not as nimble as other fighters typically, and he's a great counterpuncher, but honestly, he showed me in that fight that he was willing to try to engage. But he couldn't really reach him, so he was just throwing leg kicks for the first round. But anyways, I'm getting off track. It's just Francis Ngannou tore through people, and he ended up knocking out or TKOing Stipe Miocic. And I think that's an important victory that cemented his legacy and why he's on this list. All right, so my number 1 is Stipe Miocic, right? And he's had a little bit of an up and down here and there. Like he lost to Junior Dos Santos at one point, but then he beat him, right? And he's beat people like Alistair Overeem, and he's beat people like Francis Ngannou, which Francis Ngannou, as I just said, avenged that loss, but still. And then he gets knocked out by Daniel Cormier, and then he comes back, right? And he just, okay, I'm going to win this. And so he wins the next 2 fights. And he's just had such an impressive career. And I believe he had the record for the most title defenses at heavyweight. And he's largely considered the heavyweight GOAT. And of course, John Jones recently knocked him out. But I don't think John Jones has had enough activity at heavyweight. And he probably won't have enough activity at heavyweight ever. I don't think he's really interested in that. He doesn't want to risk tarnishing his legacy. And Stipe's fought a lot of people. And he fights, it's interesting, because my opinion was a little bit different, I think, a couple years ago. Because in some ways, Stipe is a part-time fighter. Because he's a firefighter. And so he doesn't typically fight 3 times a year. Usually it's like 1. And he's okay with that. But the thing is he's very impressive. He's very skilled. And he's just won me over. It's just like he doesn't fight a bunch, but he fights. And he fights hard and he wins a lot. And sometimes he loses, but he's also getting up there in age. And he tried to take it to John Jones. He failed, but that's okay. Because up until that, like the other fights that he had, and the fact that he came back against DC and beat him twice, and the other wins that I've mentioned that he has on his resume, as well as others that I may not mention, he just did such an impressive job at heavyweight and holding down the heavyweight division and being as great as he was for as long as he was. All right, so that's going to be it for this video, guys. Please like, comment what you thought of this video, comment what you thought of my picks, and subscribe. I will see you all later.